Okay, there's a little addendum to this little trick because I'm really maybe unduly proud of it. But what I like about it, you can do it to music. You don't have to say anything. What you may find interesting, it's very modular. There's many different ways of going about doing things, especially, like I said, the first two aces. And what I find aesthetically pleasing, wholly aside from magic, is when people shuffle cards, when people riffle shuffle cards. A good dealer, if you see a good dealer riffle shuffle cards, it's nice. There's just something aesthetically pleasing. If you just do this as a riffle shuffle routine, and you do the, I believe it's called the Dad Stevens control, or some adaptation thereof. It's in Card College. You do this bit where you zero under 4 cards which you've shuffled on top. You put them together, you get a brief there, and you can very fairly shuffle again from the brief, just making sure you get at least 4 cards on top. And then what's one of the harder things to do consistently and without any problem is a tabled pharaoh. And this is a very easy, I think, way of doing a tabled pharaoh. You just do this sort of pharaoh because you're just doing a whole bunch of flourishes anyway. And then you do a straddle pharaoh on the table, and you follow this up with this sort of a thing, and that I think looks very convincing. And then you shuffle 2 cards on top, not just 1, because I found that 2 cards is better. And then you do the slip cut bit, where you slip cut the top card to the top, add them all together. You say, maybe you say, doesn't that look fair? And then you just do the same thing again. You slip cut again. You do the exact same sequence. You pause in between. It looks very fair. And, people don't expect it a second time. There's something about the dynamic of doing it this way, rather than revealing the slip cut to card, but using it as a false cut for a slug. I think it's very nice. Anyway, then you can turn over the first card, which is an ace. And then in order to get rid of the second card, you can actually, I think, I like doing at this point the original Erdnase. In Erdnase, you never see anyone do that, hardly ever. This is the cut as described in Erdnase. It's just straight to the point, and it fits very nicely in the context of this thing here. Made a mistake somewhere. Should have been another ace, but whatever, it's another ace. And now you have an indifferent card here. You have an ace, you have another indifferent card, and you have the last ace. So you want to get rid of this card, and for presentational purposes, it is better to get rid of the second from the top card as well, so you can just do that sneakily or do whatever. You just need to get rid of it. So you have the 2 aces, one followed by the other, and then you say, well, name a card, because they can freely name any card. Let's say they say the 7 of hearts, it doesn't really matter. Whatever card they name, you say, well, just take the value of this card. You could have named any card, and you do a second deal followed by a double lift, as I'm so very fond of doing. And you display this card, and they have no reason to doubt this because they freely named this card. How should they doubt this? And so, and then you turn it face down again without splitting, of course. So you show this, you turn it face down again, and you apparently set it forward. You can do this once as a feint, and then you can actually just let go of the bottom part and set the rest forward. You do something with the cards. You set this down. That's a very nice way, a very subtle way of dealing with a double. And then you get a break below the top 3 cards, and then you can do whatever you want. You just have to pass them to the bottom. Anyway, you see fit. And so now at the bottom you have an indifferent card, then you have the ace, and then you have the card that they freely thought of, the 7, which you want to get back as sort of a callback. And then you can shuffle the cards once and say, okay, I want you to understand this is about as fair a shuffle as can be, and of course it is. You just keep track of the bottom 3 cards. And I want you to cut wherever you cut, and I think that's fair. And so you said, and you miscall it 7 of hearts. You remember 7 of hearts. I tell you what, you can say 7, or you can spell 7, S-E-V-E-N, or you can spell 7 of hearts. Whichever one you like. Somewhere in there is not, the bottom is not on top. And then they say however they want to handle this. And let's say they say 7 of hearts for my sake. It's very interesting because they say S-E-V-E-N-O-F-H-E-A-R-T. It didn't really matter what they said. S, and then you can you don't have to get these back. and you point out to them, they could have said 7, they could have had it spelled, or they could have counted to 7, or say 7 of hearts, and they decided 7 of hearts. So because it's a card that you freely thought of anyway, so I don't really need the 7 of hearts anymore. And you have the 7 of hearts, which is very surprising, but it was exactly at 7 of hearts letters away that you had that ace, and since you're no longer thinking of the 7 of hearts, it's done its purpose. It can now be the last ace. It's just, you have that nice 1-2 punch, and in this case you can do it all on the table. And if you don't want to have this card chosen, you can just take the random card that's in between the aces after the pharaoh. Then you can do the whole entire thing to music. I'm not the most, that's actually part of why I like this so much. This is one of those few tricks that I do where I just shut up. The other one is the card in the mouth, card in the mouth from David, the French guy's name, can't think of the name right, David. Anyway, you know who I mean. That's why I don't say anything, and in this case. And you can do it to music. It's really nice because you can throw in as many false cuts as you know. You can do them at any speed, and at some point it's no longer about you doing false cuts. I want this I do want to mention this. I don't really like cardistry. I'm not really into it, but like with everything, there's an exception. There's this one thing I've only seen once. It's called Hypnotica or something. There's this guy. He's standing at this huge table with a whole bunch of candles, and he has this music going on in the background, and he does nothing but flourishes, and it's truly hypnotic. It's a fantastic act. I'm not a big fan of XM per se, but this one is just really, really nice. So there is a place, and when I do any sort of false step myself, I've noticed this because I tend to do them fairly quickly or what have you. That people go ooh and ah, and I say, well, I have to cut it there. Let me see exactly the right moment. It's the right place, really, and you get reactions to this sort of thing. I mean, people do notice that some things are difficult, and in this case, you can combine them, but you're not showing off to I'm going to do it the fastest or the quickest. You can do this slowly with music in the background. You just and then occasionally, like when you put the cards back down like this, you pause. It's also very, this is one of those things. It has a few built-in pauses. So you do all this quick stuff, you pause, there's a little bit of music in the background, and you square them up. Apparently you're not doing anything, and then you very slowly do this. The pharaoh bit is also just, it's a slow thing. You're just slowly doing a pharaoh. There's not that need for speed. You really shuffle 2 cards on top, let's say. And then when you do this, again, there's a complete pause. You just pause completely. You don't do anything. You brush your hands, and you do it again. And then you might do one quick one and say, okay, let's slow it down. You don't even have to say it. You just do it. And you just stop completely, whatever. And then you have the first one. I mean, you can play what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is you can play with the rhythm of the whole thing. You can do it fast. You can do it slow. You can adapt it to whichever rhythm, and that's why I like it. And you don't have to, I mean, I'm not saying it's nice, of course, if you have it completely down beat to beat, but you just have, Juan Tamariz did this once with a violin concert where he does this, I don't know, like a universal card sort of, I forgot exactly, with something with centaurs and mermaids, and he has these special cards and an envelope, I forgot what it's called. I think the centaurs, it's called that. Anyway, has a violin playing in the background, and I think it's that sort of thing. You don't do it to the rhythm, you just have some, instrumental playing in the background. Anyway, so that was just me going on about this little piece. Did you pause? Stop.